In 1913, a loaf of bread cost 5 cents. Today, that same loaf costs over $3. That's not progress. That's decay. And it's not a coincidence. It's the natural end of every empire's financial cycle. From ancient Rome to modern America, the pattern has never changed. Print money, inflate prices, destroy the currency, and watch the empire fall. It always begins the same way, with power. An empire rises, wealth flows in, trade expands. The rulers build monuments, armies, and roads. They fund wars and welfare. And when tax revenue isn't enough to sustain their ambitions, they find an easier path. They create money. Rome did it by mixing base metals into its silver coins. France did it by printing assignats during the Revolution, and America does it through the Federal Reserve, creating dollars with a keyboard stroke. Different methods, same result. Every empire prints itself to death. Let me show you exactly how the cycle works and where America stands today. Stage 1. Prosperity to birth of confidence. Every empire begins with something rare: trust. Rome had it when its denarius was nearly pure silver. Britain had it when the pound was backed by gold. And America had it when the dollar was tied to gold at $35 an ounce. Trust builds prosperity. People save, invest, and trade, knowing their money holds value. The economy grows, cities rise, innovation explodes. But richness has a shadow. The richer a nation becomes, the more it spends to maintain that success. Armies, luxuries, social programs, political favors. Eventually, the empire faces a choice: raise taxes and anger the people, or quietly debase the money. They always choose the second. Stage 2. The printing begins. The quiet theft. Rome stretched its silver by adding copper. The coins still gleamed, but inside they were worthless. By the 3rd century, the denarius contained less than 5% silver. Prices exploded, soldiers demanded payment in goods, and the empire began to rot from within. Fast forward 2,000 years, the same script plays again. In 1971, President Nixon removed the dollar's last link to gold. Overnight, money became paper, or worse, pixels. And since then, the US dollar supply has grown from $400 billion to over $20 trillion. That's not growth, that's dilution. Every printed dollar makes every existing dollar weaker. Your savings didn't lose value because you made bad choices. They lost value because the money itself was designed to decay. Inflation isn't a random storm. It's a policy. It's how the system quietly transfers wealth from savers to debtors, from the public to the state, from the working class to the elite. This is how every empire funds itself in decline, by stealing time and value from its own citizens through the printing press. Stage 4. The illusion of wealth. At first, the printing feels good. People feel richer. Stocks rise, home values climb, credit flows easily. In Rome, citizens spent like kings as the currency collapsed. In the 1920s Weimar Republic, the stock market soared, right until a loaf of bread cost billions of dollars. In America, the S&P hit record highs in 2021, just months after $4.5 trillion was printed. It's the illusion of wealth, a mirage built on fake money. But here's the truth. When new money is created, it doesn't go to everyone equally. It goes to those closest to the printer: governments, big banks, corporations. They spend the new money before prices rise. By the time it re-trickles down to the average worker, the prices have already adjusted upward. That's why the rich get richer and the middle class gets squeezed. It's not capitalism, it's monetary feudalism.
Stage 4. Debt explosion. The illusion eventually wears off. The empire's debts can't be paid, but the promises must continue. Pensions, welfare, subsidies, wars. So they double down. They print more, borrow more, and tell the people everything is fine. In late Rome, emperors issued new coins almost monthly. In modern America, the Federal Reserve now creates billions in minutes. Debt becomes the economy. Growth becomes impossible without new credit. By this stage, productivity no longer matters. Only liquidity does. The empire survives not through creation, but through manipulation. Stage 5. The confidence collapse. Every cycle ends when belief breaks. For Rome, it came when citizens refused to accept imperial coins. For France, it came when assignats became wallpaper. For Weimar Germany, when people weighed their money instead of counting it. And for modern America, it will come when the world realizes the dollar is no longer a store of value, only a tool of control. Already nations are moving away from the dollar. China and Russia trade in yuan. Saudi Arabia negotiates oil in non-dollar terms. Central banks are hoarding gold again, the same metal they abandoned 50 years ago. When confidence breaks, the cycle ends violently. Inflation spikes, the middle class collapses, and political chaos erupts. History shows that clearly. Economic decay always leads to social unrest. Stage 6. The reset. Every empire eventually resets. Rome split in two, France turned to Napoleon, Weimar Germany gave rise to something far darker, and America? No one knows yet. But the pattern points to one thing: a new monetary system. It may come disguised as a digital dollar, a safe and controlled currency that promises stability. But remember, when an empire resets, it never gives power back to the people. It centralizes even more of it. The cycle doesn't end. It simply starts over under a new name. Stage 7. The lesson we never learn. The 100-year cycle isn't about money. It's about human nature. We always begin with trust and discipline. We end with greed and decay. The coin gets debased. The currency gets inflated. The empire collapses. And the people say, no one could have seen it coming. But the truth is, it always comes. Because the greatest addiction in history isn't gold or oil, it's printed power. And just like Rome, just like France, just like Weimar, America's turn has come. If history repeats every 100 years, we're not entering a new age, we're closing one. The empire that once backed the world's currency is now drowning in its own debt, inflating its own money, and eroding its own middle class. This isn't random. It's the final chapter of a story written centuries ago. And unless we learn the lesson that you cannot print prosperity, then we'll watch again as the world's greatest empire prints itself to death.